1.
All right, so the first thing I should address is, yeah, you see the trailer there instead of regular gameplay footage. Yes, this is a game we all got. The reason we can't capture footage is because this game is locked into a specific resolution. And we suspect the reason that that is the case is because if you see the trailer here, it's actually using FMV.
Yeah, at least sort of. That's probably part of it.
Yeah, it's like FMV is usually recorded at a specific resolution. Like, we can't confirm this. I'm like, maybe if the developer chimes in with feedback on that note, we can issue a later clarification. But suffice it to say, since Petty Fan can't adjust the resolution, he cannot display it properly at the contours where you usually do it at.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we make the footage small so for protection. I think we mentioned that before. Anyway, so Epic Loon here. This is a game that's kind of hard to describe with words, or with few words, because it's a very, very specific targeted concept here. Like, so what you're seeing here is this this shut-in nerd type, very comic book guy vibe going here.
Yeah, he's specifically a VHS otaku and specifically like old B-movie type stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, he's the poor man's cinephile, because you get the impression he's very snooty about this shit, but he's being snooty about B movies and VHS. Let me tell you, that was never the true quote unquote cinephile's method of viewing shit, even back in the day.
Then again, he's intentionally seems to be an obnoxious character. His voice is just
right. He seems to be a satirical take on this kind of nerd culture representative.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a very obnoxious voice, and getting back to my point here is, the people who call movies films and whatnot, and talk about the great directors and auteur theory, they would have been watching shit on Laserdisc in the 90s. They would have given a shit about things like widescreen, back when it really wasn't a concern for most people because of square televisions. Being a VHS cinephile is a joke in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm getting.
Yeah. This guy who has 6 names and 5 nicknames, his prized VCR finally goes kaput. So he goes to the creepy old Chinese hardware store guy and purchases a haunted magic VCR repair cassette thing, and with the same instructions as a Mogwai. And it was at this point that I had to skip through the intro because it's way too long, but I assume at some point, because of the cassette, his TV gets invaded by aliens, and then he tries stuff to kill the aliens and play the aliens, trying to get them through whatever he's playing.
He's trying to kill the aliens through rip-offs of classic movies, not even B movies all the time, because there are 4 scenarios, one of which is Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
is not a B movie.
Yeah, Dracula's actually pretty like the original Dracula is fairly well regarded too, but
But I'm talking about like there was no point where Jurassic Park was ever considered to be a fucking B movie.
that's true.
Now, so I just want to get that point across right here. Or indeed Aliens. Like Aliens, maybe a genre picture, but also
That's what I should have said. He likes like genre stuff.
Yeah, but they're definitely going with a cheap. They're trying to go with a cheap B movie thing, and they picked the wrong kind of movies. Yeah. But like the closest they got was with the Gojira.
Yep.
And the thing about that is, we're talking about the original Gojira. You know, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Like Gojira, Godzilla, whatever you want to call him, definitely descended into B movie camp at a certain point. Like especially in like the 70s. You know. But the original Godzilla is, you know, maybe a B movie, but how do I put this? There's a reason why it got put in the Criterion Collection. It's also a very deep allegory about the horrors of nuclear war.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't these aren't cast-off films that were forgotten until like MST3K got a hold of them. Like no, these are ripoffs of, you know, very well regarded movies throughout the ages.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Max a little bit of the quote unquote obscure nerd reference that they do in popular stuff, where like you're referencing something that it's a little bit old, but it was kind of fairly mainstream.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you wanted to really rip off B movies, you know, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman or something like that, or Them. I'm just naming like the popular stuff. Even The Earth Stood Still as
The Day the Earth Stood Still is,
you know, poignant as that was still a B movie. Like, but we're talking semantics here. I'm like, so yeah, you load up these various concepts, and the gameplay is kind of scorched earth, kind of not. So what that is to say, if you can see the actual gameplay here, you take your alien and you fling them around places.
yeah, you can kind of hop slowly left or right, but you can't make it over any gaps really. It's mostly just for repositioning. The main way of getting around is you turn yourself into a turret that kind of oscillates back and forth,
Right.
and then you press the jump button when it's pointing where you want to go, and you shoot off in that direction. And if you hit a solid surface, you stick to it. And you can kind of ricochet between all kinds of different surfaces. Some of them will kill you sometimes, but those are usually pretty clearly marked.
Yeah.
And the goal is to get to the gate on the other end of the level, which looks like a rip in the film. You could also change back into normal alien mode in midair to control your trajectory a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the things that kill you is like pixelated red junk that's corruption of the film. At least
And
that's what.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what it's being framed as. Like, I mean, realistically, it takes place as you know, it looks like objects in the film itself.
Yeah.
And another odd thing is the aesthetics are all black and white films, because
in spite of the fact that like Jurassic Park was not black and white,
nor was Aliens or Alien. You know, it's like that's once again harkening back to the whole B movie.
Right.
It's like, you know, there is some color in some of the levels, like the Godzilla, but yeah, it's surprisingly
Which,
all
ironically, was black and white.
right. Anyway,
But yeah,
so
gameplay is fairly simple and actually pretty solid. The possible sticking point here is the aesthetics, which are potentially disturbing, potentially slightly headache-inducing.
potentially obnoxious.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Like,
it's
mostly I found, like, menu effects to be the obnoxious thing. Like, the actual gameplay stuff was fine.
Yeah, but you did turn
the
the voice
gameplay and the
cues
mechanics
off.
are
Like,
fine for the most part. I will note I got annoyed by the fact that it's semi-random. Like you have to watch where your eye stock is going to go in that direction.
Mm.
Oh, and there are always 4 players, even if you're playing alone.
Yeah.
You can play couch co-op with from 0 to 4 players.
Yeah, this is a game that can actually play itself. I would not recommend doing that because the AI is the AI is extraordinarily dumb. Like you might get the occasional level where the opening is easy to get to, and the enemy, the other aliens, however you want to frame it, one of them can get in there first. But if it's any sort of a challenge to get to the rip, no, you're probably getting there first, just because the other aliens are that fucking brain dead.
Well, you could probably go to get a sandwich and then get there first.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
They can bump you and knock you off the edge, though, which can be frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm like, and the levels are pretty inconsistent. Like some of them you might be on for less than a minute. Some of them like took me 10 minutes to get, just because it was so difficult to get to the tear itself.
Yeah.
And the reason why you would want to have 0 players is to engage in drunken bets. This is basically what the game tells you itself. Like,
oh man, I'll give you like $10 and you have to drink a shot if like the square guy doesn't get in first.
Right. I'm like, I do not foresee this ever getting used. Because honestly, the emphasis is on multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
But Adam, you're not a frat boy.
Though it doesn't really matter who wins in the sense of progression. Like,
yeah, as long as someone gets to the end,
mm-hmm.
You get to progress. Although, if a player dies, apparently in story mode, you have to you spawn in the next level as a ghost, and you have to tag someone else to come back in.
You have to get to the original position. And what happens if a computer-controlled opponent gets to the rip? Then some VCR effects happen. First, it goes into rewind, where everything moves backwards, and then it goes into fast forward, where everything is moving twice as fast. And yeah, these do have an impact on gameplay.
Like there are some platforming sections where the objects that you're trying to jump on will be being affected by the fast forward and the rewind.
Also, your momentum is affected.
Your momentum gets faster in fast forward, and I think is slower in rewind.
This is stuff that's covered in the tutorial segments, if you so choose to play them. And the principal reason to play through all of the campaign stuff is to unlock not just extra skins. Like you have a base skin, and then you have a skin after one of the 4 movie ripoffs. Like there's an Alien skin, and there's a Godzilla skin, and so on and so forth. And also every VHS adventure you go on will unlock the content, both the stages, because they are split off into 3 acts. Get it? Movie 3-act structure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also worth noting that you can only save in between acts. So, and each campaign segment is fairly long, actually. Or it has many segments, however you want to frame it. But the other thing is you will unlock 2 other modes: time attack mode, which is fairly self-explanatory, and hardcore mode, which is everything done on fast forward. So yeah, there's a fair bit of content, not the most content in the world, but it'll get you through, especially since the emphasis is on multiplayer. And on that note, I will automatically say, don't get the PC version.
Yeah, it's couch co-op only, and that's never been great on PCs.
No, no.
No.
I'm like, I think if there's a version I could recommend, it's the Switch version.
Because you already have a second controller.
Hmm.
Yes, among other things. It's like, or the PlayStation for the Xbox, because even though those are de-emphasized, you can still do couch co-op on that better than a fucking computer.
Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, living room PCs are becoming a thing, but they're still not as prevalent as some game developers think they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's a nice gesture, but you know, like for example, us. None of us live close to each other, so there is no way we could do the couch co-op.
Yeah, that said, I can see why online co-op might not be ideal because there's a lot of tight timing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
this definitely seems like the kind of game that where lag would be a killer.
Yeah, I'm not even saying like tight like platforming stuff, but like if if you're trying to coordinate jumping so you don't knock into each other and you accidentally do, that would be at least one or two people would be fucking pissed off. So
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then we get to pricing. This game clocks in at $15. I'm like, this is a hard one because I can definitely see where the $15 goes because, as obnoxious as the whole aesthetical package can get, it is.
yeah, they definitely put a lot of work into the really annoying visual artifacting and
Like, I
Yeah.
would say on PC, no. If you're getting it on consoles, sure.
That seems a good split the difference there.
Yeah.
Just like and just make sure you have friends because that's how you're going to get the most out of it.
Yeah, if you don't have anybody
Mhm.
nearby you can play with, this is just a straight up pass.
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't have and if you have any personal weird reactions to odd visual effects and stuff, probably not the game for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a little
'Cause you'll
while,
have
and
weird
I was
eyes.
starting to get headaches due to the filters they were using.
Yeah, and graphically, you'll have weird eyes staring at you ominously. You'll sometimes see someone else's reflection in the fake CRT screen that the gameplay screen is on.
Mm.
That was the thing about VHS. It was terrible. We put up with it because that's what most people could afford back in the 90s.
Yeah, we put up with it because it was easier than going to the movie theater.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but I will tell you right now, I do not have any fucking nostalgia for VHS. I mean, pan and scan, quality degradation, tracking.
Tracking. Oh God.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, well done in capturing some terrible, terrible shit. So, all right.
But yeah,
so-
it actually is fun to play if you can handle the visuals and preferably have a couple people to play with.
Yeah.
All right then. So I think that'll about do it for Epic Loon and indeed our review session this week. So coming up on the week ahead, no European interview this week. Not Tuesday, no Thursday.
Adam? Adam?
Because
Adam, you dropped out there.
oh yeah, sorry.
No
Anyway,
Thursday, something.
Oh, gee, did I cut out that soon? Or
Yeah.
That?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No European interview this week. But we do have, on our main show, we have something sort of different and sort of not. We'll be welcoming Gregory Avery Weir of Future Proof Games. And we're going to be talking about both their games, their video games, of which they've got a few, Ossuary, Exploit Zero Day, and probably most famously, The Majesty of Colors. They did send me some video assets that I'll give you afterwards, Petty Fan. But the main thing that we're probably going to be talking about, the thing that comes out on Wednesday, is Rosette Diceless. So this is a role playing.
It's a diceless tabletop role playing system.
Yeah.
Or
Really
tabletop or in person.
Yeah, really more of a LARP. If I'm being what I've read so far, it really emphasizes live action role playing over everything else, and deals with a lot with gestures, and doesn't want to be bogged down with dice or heavy rule sets.
It's one of the kind of directions that a lot of tabletop role playing stuff is going. So
yeah, I'm like, yeah, Galax, I definitely want you to look over this, since you're the closest thing we have to a tabletop expert here.
I definitely will do that.
So, yeah, this will be interesting because even if it's a half step, this is the first time we're going to be talking about one of these things. Mm-hmm. Like, mind you, this isn't a gameplay expansion. It's more they do proper video games, and they just happen to be doing tabletop stuff as well. Just want to emphasize that right here and right now. So that is the week ahead. Until Wednesday, I shall wish you good gaming.